and that is 10cc out of 1975 with I'm Not in Love. Well, that coincidence has happened again. We play a song and magically on the phone we have a very special guest. It is an enormous pleasure to welcome to the Two Blokes Chatting radio show the man who is playing bass and singing some backing vocals there, Graham Gouldman. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Neil. How are you?
Great, thank you. Thanks for joining us on the show. This is very exciting for a man who grew up listening to some amazing music that you both contributed to as a writer, but also as a musician as well. Let's go all the way back to the early days in Manchester. When did you start realising that you had some sort of musical talent?
I sort of fell in love with music when I was about 7 years old, but I think I realised that music was going to be my life when I was about 11, actually. But I was given a guitar and absolutely fell in love with it and actually wrote a horrible little bit of music on it the first day I got it. But I was lucky enough to be born at the right time, growing up as a young teenager, listening to music that started to influence me and still influences me to this day. And also got encouraged by my parents with music. They realised I had a gift and encouraged me. And yeah, lots of sort of lucky things. But I think being born at that particular time was very important.
So who were some of the early influences you speak of?
Well, a lot of American musicians like Little Richard, Buddy Holly, the Everly Brothers, Eddie Cochran, people from that era, Chuck Berry. And then there was the kind of like the skiffle era in the UK, which was kind of like when people started making music for themselves, buying guitars and playing on washboards and things like that. Then there was sort of Cliff and the Shadows, and then the Beatles. Those are sort of the four main stages of my of influence of my musical life.
So looking through the history of music, Manchester seems to pop its head up a fair bit. Was there much of a music scene around Manchester when you were a younger child?
Yeah, always. I mean, it's always been very supportive of all the arts. So there was always great theatre, music, classical music, as well as, popular music. Lots of clubs and venues for people to play in, because it was a university town. I think that's one of the reasons why there were so many venues. So you could see loads of bands. I mean, me and my mates, when I was younger, used to go out on a Saturday night and just go from club to club watching different bands. It was amazing.
And you indicated that you thought from the age of 11 it was going to be a life. When I was 11, I was given a trumpet, and my neighbours regretted that decision very, very quickly. And it lasted till I was about 12. Here you are, let's call it 60 plus years later, still doing it. How do you go from here's a guitar, Graham, to actually starting to perform with your friends in and around Manchester?
Well, I enjoyed playing with other people and encouraged it and started forming bands from quite an early age. I always think that because I'm an only child, that maybe I was sort of getting sort of brothers together that they weren't actually real brothers, but they felt like brothers, to play music with me. And so I started forming bands and being in bands from quite an early age, maybe about 14, I think, the first band I was in. And loved it so much that, I'm doing it today, and I feel very fortunate that I am.
And the other aspect to your career that many people may not sort of immediately associate with you is your songwriting. And there's a couple of songs we already played today. We're spoiling the theme for Rob, my co-host, because normally he has to pick what the theme is. I'm going to tell him now the first two songs that we've heard today, No Milk Today and Bus Stop, were written by Graham Gouldman.
That's right. Yeah. During the mid-60s, I was in various bands, but at the same time, I was writing songs and being lucky enough to get some really, have a lot of hits with the songs that you mentioned with Herman's Hermits and the Hollies, and I also had like 3 hits with the Yardbirds as well.
So, with those sort of songs, were the bands already established and making hits already, or was that also early days for those bands?
Well, the Hollies and Herman's Hermits were, but the Yardbirds weren't. And they were really known as a sort of rhythm and blues band, but they wanted to have some kind of chart success, and that's why they came to. Well, they didn't come to me, but I'd written the song, and our publisher suggested that it would be a great song for them, and he was absolutely correct.
Yeah, and I guess the thing that sits in my mind is, it's a quantum leap, isn't it? From sitting in your bedroom with a guitar, writing the occasional song, to having a song that's released by bands of that ilk.
Yeah. Well, I guess what really happened is that sort of chemistry or that happenstance that they were looking for something at exactly the same time that I'd written something that was exactly right for them, or they thought was right for them, and it worked very well.
Yeah.
And that was really the thing that set off my whole sort of professional musical career.
And I put myself, I've been thinking about this conversation for a little while, and I was putting myself in, I'm sitting in my room with Bus Stop, Wet Day, She's There, I Say. Yeah, I can make a song out of that.
Well, actually, my dad used to help me with lyrics on a lot of the songs that I wrote during that period in the sort of mid to late 60s. And I told him the idea for the song. And I came home one day, and he'd written it. He'd written that first verse, and as I read the words, I heard the melody in my head, and sort of went into my bedroom, finished the main part of the song off. But I knew it needed another part, and then there's a second part to the song with it. Every morning I would see her waiting at the stop. That part that came to me, lyrics and music came into my head. Without sitting down with the guitar, which normally I have to sit down with the guitar to sort of get the tap into my sort of creativity, if you like. But that just came to me. The whole thing came to me in like one block, and I remember I was out and I couldn't wait to get home, so I could sort of slot it into the song, and it worked great.
We've spoken to a lot of people, from really well-known artists such as yourself, all the way through to people who are coming through as songwriters, and I'm fascinated by the process. The thing I can't get my head around was that for a while you used to actually go to work as a songwriter. So you would go in, presumably into some kind of studio, and sit there and say, right, write me a song. How does that work?
Well, it's interesting. I do a lot of collaborating, so what actually happens when you're creating is a bit of a mystery. But if you're writing with somebody else, you want to come up with the goods, really, particularly if you've got a good reputation. And I'd say 99% of the time I do. What actually happens, I don't know if any writer can tell you. I mean, a lot of writers will say the same thing, but suddenly something happens where you tap into something and the song starts coming out. You're kind of chasing it. It's almost like the song was already there, and the right circumstances have allowed it to sort of come through your mouth and fingers, into the guitar, and there it is. So I can only tell you what happens before the process starts, not what actually happens when it's really happening. And in a way, I don't really want to know what's if some neurologist could explain what's happening. It's a beautiful mystery how it happens, and any artist will tell you the same thing. That quite often you start something, and when the process starts, it's a wonderful sort of just things sort of flow out of you.
Yeah, because we often hear of the stories of the Brill Building in New York, where Neil Diamond and Carol.
Yeah.
I've got visions in my head of people sitting on different floors with, like, going to work and creating a spreadsheet.
They do. Yeah. Well, they are doing that, yeah. And you're right, it is a complete mystery.
Yeah. So then along, in the late 60s, early 70s, you stumbled over a few mates, Eric, Lowell and Kevin, and a band was formed called 10cc. How did that all come about?
Well, Kevin and Lowell I knew because we were in different bands that rehearsed at a club in North Manchester. Eric I met through our agent. So I knew all the boys, and Eric Stewart and a guy called Peter Tattersall had started a studio off called Strawberry Studios, and asked me to become a partner in it, which I did. I thought it was a brilliant idea for the sort of northwest of England to have its own proper studio, and sort of everyone came together there, and we were kind of like, before we were 10cc, we were playing other people's records. We were kind of like the house band. And then when the studio wasn't working, we'd started writing songs and just recorded things until we recorded a song called Donna that became our first single and first hit.
Well, we're going to take a break and hear from you and the boys on a song, my favourite 10cc song, I must tell you, out of 1977. I'm talking with Graham Gouldman. This is The Things We Do for Love. I'm talking with Graham Gouldman from 10cc. That, of course, the hit out of 1977, The Things We Do for Love. So you had a hit with Donna, and next, I guess, the first song I can remember you guys bringing out and certainly becoming big in Australia was Rubber Bullets. And then it was kind of
that was our first number one.
Yeah, and then it was a kind of parade of great songs right through the 70s.
That's right.
And so then towards, roughly when did the band disband?
Kevin Dudley and Noel Cream left the band in 1976, and Eric Stewart and I carried on. And really till the sort of on and off till the early 90s, and then we actually called it a day. But during the 80s, when we were on a break from each other, I was working with Andrew Gold, and that was one of my happiest and most creative, I think, relationships. We had a band called Wax, and had some success, not as big as 10cc, certainly not, but nevertheless, it was a very, very creative and fruitful time.
Well, we are going to hear from Wax very shortly, but before we let you go, because I know you've got a million other things on your plate to do today. In fact, I believe there might be an interview with Channel 9 coming up very soon. We are going to give you a bit of a plug for your show. You're coming to Geelong on Thursday, the 31st of July. You're playing at the Playhouse. What can people expect when they come along on the night?
All the hits and more. We do all the songs that you would expect to hear, plus various album tracks and a couple of surprises.
Oh, okay. We like a bit of a surprise. Now, you're
we do.
You're currently in New Zealand, which is where we're talking to you at the moment, Christchurch, I believe. But you come to Australia on Wednesday the 16th. You're doing from Queensland all the way down. If you can't get to the show in Geelong, folks, there's a show at the Theatre Royal in Castlemaine on Wednesday the 30th of July. There's another one in Melbourne on Friday the 1st of August. So there's 3 days in a row you're playing in Victoria, and then you're off to Adelaide.
That's right, that's correct. If you say so. I haven't looked at the itinerary properly yet, but it sounds like you're on it.
Graham, it has been an absolute thrill to make your acquaintance today. Thank you for being part of the Two Blokes Chatting radio show, and all the very best. We'll hopefully see you in Geelong in a few weeks.
Looking forward to it. Thank you very much, Neil. Cheers.
Thanks, Graham. Graham Gouldman.
Okay, mate. Cheers.
Good on you, Graham.
Bye-bye.
Thanks. See you. Bye.